We are live. Hello there, everybody. Gerda Muller here. How are you going? Who is going to join me live tonight? So excited to see who's still awake at 9:30. There was a time in my life when my night only started at 9:30. Those days are long gone. But let's see who's going to join me. Let's refresh our page. Okay. Oh, we've got 3 people live with us already. If you are hopping on, say hi, say hello. Let me know that you are here, because unfortunately you can't always rely on Facebook to tell you who has joined you, right? Sometimes it tells you, sometimes it doesn't. So even if you just put a little hello in the comments section, then I know you are here and we can have a chat, right? How have your day been? It is Thursday, of course. Thursdays for me starts like most days, dropping off kids at school, then going to the gym, and then every Thursday I run a 90-minute weekly question and answer session with my inner circle. Hey Justine, glad to have you on here. Welcome. So that's what I do for 90 minutes. Then I actually went for a nap today. Hey Claire, welcome. Good to have you here. And then I got up because I was so tired after 3 very intense days. And then I had a one-on-one session with one of my inner circle people for an hour. And then the kids got home from school and the day was gone more or less, right? So yeah, then it was dinner, all of that stuff. We worked tonight on a Rube Goldberg machine. If you know what a Rube Goldberg machine is, I will be very impressed, because I did not know what it was until my son had it as a Year 7 assignment. So tonight was the final recording of how it all runs and him doing a write-up. So it was a very exciting evening, which is why my head's still buzzing. And I thought I'm gonna hop on here and chat to you guys. Hey Robin, good to have you here. Hey Lee, welcome, welcome. So this of course is the how to start a private practice free Facebook community group. I do know that we have quite a number of practice owners as well in this group, people that's already been in private practice for quite some time, which I think is really amazing, because it means that the guys that are still in those stages of contemplating private practice, you know, thinking about it, dreaming about it, having these visions about what it could potentially look like, have not only myself in here to help answer your questions and help guide your thinking, but they also have a whole range of other private practice owners from various allied health and associated disciplines in here that can also provide input and suggestions, right? So you guys would have noticed that I have put up a post recently saying, if you've got any questions, post them in the comments below, and I will answer it. And that's what I'm doing tonight. I am answering it live here for you. All right, so I also am very aware that we've got quite a lot of new people here in the group. That's all right, Alan. A lot of new people in the group. So I'll just maybe very briefly introduce myself, because I do know people have been coming from everywhere joining, and it's so exciting, and I encourage you to also share the existence of this group with colleagues and peers that might be interested in private practice, because they're all welcome to join. All right, and therefore I know that you might not know me as well as, you know, maybe others in the group. I'm just putting the speaker off. So my name is Gerda Muller. Of course, I am a clinical psychologist by trade, so to speak. I don't know why I always say by trade, but it's like, that's my trade, right? And maybe it is because my husband is a tradesman and we know a lot of tradies, right? So that's my trade, is I'm a clinical psychologist. I am a group practice owner and founder of the Psych Professionals. It's a group private practice here in Brisbane that has been in existence now for 12 years. Yes, and also the founder of YourPsychOnline.com, which I'm currently in the process of rebranding to Source Health. And of course, for the last 4 years, I've been doing Private Practice Success Australia, which was really me getting to that point where I went, okay, I've got my 2 group private practices, but I want to do something more. How can I work with practice owners? Because I knew firsthand how isolating it can be being in private practice, right? I was a solo practitioner for the first 6 months, and then I started growing my team. That's the right English, Gerda. And even with a team, it was still pretty isolating being the practice owner, having to make all the decisions, right? And I just thought I want to start, just breaking that isolation mold that we experience in private practice, whether we are solo practitioners or whether we are group private practice owners. Doesn't matter how big or small our practice is, it is very isolating. And that's really how Private Practice Success started. And of course, these days I do mentoring and coaching for practice owners. Hey Chris, welcome, glad to have you here. Hope it's not too cold, that Tasmania is seeing a bit of spring and that it's looking good. Swallowed a piece of ice in my water. So what I want to do is I'm going to answer the questions that you guys have for me. That is in the Facebook group. I've got my trusty laptop here. So I'm actually just checking the comments on the phone and then looking at the post in the group. If you are here live with me, please feel free to answer any questions whatsoever. Now that you are here, we can have a discussion about it. I can ask clarifying questions. It's really amazing if you are live with me. And I might actually start with the live questions. So the first one is from Claire. So Claire says, when paying staff, do you pay according to a pay scale, or can you decide to pay what you would like? So when you are paying, and I'm assuming, Claire, that you are referring to employees, and this would of course relate to both your admin team, front desk, admin support, as well as your clinical team, right? Because we've got really 2 teams in the practice. It's our admin front desk, and then like the back end, which is the clinicians that's doing the clinical work. If they are employees, you most certainly need to pay at least the minimum that is indicated in the relevant award. So the award for our profession, our industry, generally, of course, is the Health Professionals and Support Services Award. So I'll say that again, the Health Professionals and Support Services Award. And that award will give you the minimum pay rates for your team. Now there's various levels, which of course has various amounts of pay. So there's a pay scale document, and then there's the whole award. Within the award, it's towards the end section of it, there will be what's called classifications, right? So you need to read the classification, you need to think around the person that you want to appoint, where do they fall in the classification, and then you match that classification with a pay rate. If that sounds like a lot of research and hard work, the other thing, the shortcut is to hop on the phone to Fair Work. Of course, you need to have an idea of what will be in the job description for this person. And we actually try and do that as a general rule, right? Even as a very experienced, long-standing practice, especially when we have a new type of role at the practice, which often happens actually, because we are always growing and expanding. We come up with new innovative ways of structuring our team, and we also like to structure our team based on each person's genius zone, the stuff that they're really good at, i.e. their strengths, right? And the stuff that's going to bring them joy and happiness on a day-to-day basis. So what we would do is we would do all that stuff. We will go, okay, this is the position, the roles, the duties, the responsibilities. So according to this classification, this is the level they should be. How much money is that? Okay. Then we ring up Fair Work and we talk it through with them, right? So even if you haven't done that back end, we do it because we consistently want to ensure that our interpretation of the award and therefore our understanding of the award is correct, right? And therefore we call up Fair Work. And it's just an additional test, right? What if somebody applies for the job and they want to double check that we are paying them properly? We want to make sure that what we offer is always at minimum what Fair Work will be telling somebody if they were to phone up and go, this is what I'm being offered, this is my role and responsibilities, I just wanted to check what's the pay rate, right? So we will call up. So you can call them, you can have it's a very quick conversation actually, and they will give you an indication of what it is that you need to pay your person. I hope that makes sense. I see Robin is here. No worries. Good to read that and hear that, Alan. All right, so let me know, Clay, if you're still with me, and if that does not answer your question, please just clarify and I will come back to that one for you. Alrighty. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the other questions then in here. All right, so there was a question here from the lovely Amy, and Amy says, too niche or not too niche? Amy, that is the question, right? And Holly, I think, also said same. She was thinking the same thing. So to Claire says, thank you, fabulous. So Amy says, too niche or not too niche? My dream is to have a woman's focus practice, but in a regional rural area. Is this too risky? And then Holly says, same. My husband pointed out to me though that we were going through a personal loss and that was a women's related issue. What if he wanted support? Amy also had a lovely article that she shared and said, thank you. And I just want to see, okay. I'm sure I read somewhere, where did I read that? Okay, yes, there it is in Amy's comment that every time she said, I want to open up a women's mental health practice, people would go, but what about the men? No worries, Robin, no worries. I know it's late at night. The thing is, what about the men? You know, yes, that's a question, but you know, what about the men? They can go to probably every other mental health service in the area because 9 out of 10 allied health or mental health services would look after both males and females, right? And the fact of the matter is, the one thing that I've learned is, doesn't matter what you do, whether you niche or don't niche, doesn't matter what type of niche you choose, somebody will have something negative, critical to say about it. It's just life. That's how it is, right? So to come back to the original question around, do I niche or don't I? And I must say from experience, I know that a lot of people, particularly when they are starting out, are very fearful generally of niching. People often tell me stuff like, oh, I don't want to be pigeonholed, or I don't want to be put in a box, or, you know, I like diversity, or what if I don't get referrals, right? Because they think I only work with A, B, and C, even if it's like 3 things that you work with. And a lot of those things are fear-based reactions, okay? And very much scarcity-based thinking happening around it. This is what I do know. I know that there's a lot of people already in private practice. I also know that every day, every week, every month, more and more people are entering private practice, right? It is compared to other businesses, it is a fairly easy pathway into starting your own practice, which is a good and a bad thing. That's a double-edged sword, just on another point. Because it is easy, it also means that people go into it without getting the proper foundations in place, and as a result they get problems down the road. Okay, I've seen it happen over and over where people go, geez, this is so easy, right? You just start, rent a room, get referrals, Bob's your uncle. And it might seem easy, but if you do not have the business processes in place, you will quickly, very quickly, some people a bit longer than others, learn your mistakes, right? Which is why I say it's a double-edged sword. But I guess compared to other professions, it's easy for us to start our own business, which is why more and more people are entering into it, especially now with the NDIS space. Everybody went into private practice. Now again, a lot of people are going this when it comes to the NDIS, don't want anything to do with it. But the bottom line is that a lot of people are now in private practice. I just need to look at my own group private practice. You know, when I started it 12 years ago, we were the only group private practice in a large geographical location. Now there's multiple group private practices around us, and there's multiple solo practices, you know, some of them working from GP practices, some of them working in their own rooms. You know, one could potentially say the market is saturated where both my practice is located. Of course, we still have a booming business because there's a great demand. But coming back to how this then relates to niching, right? The fact is that if you decided this week to go into private practice, and depending on where you are, right, there might be a lot of other people already there. So there might already be a lot of existing referral relationships, right? Which means that when you start to do your marketing, you need to have a reason for a GP, for example, to start referring to you and not the normal psychologist that they refer to, not the normal OT they might be referring to, or the normal mental health social worker, or the normal speech or dietitian, or whatever your discipline is, right? But if you just do the same as everybody else, what is their reason to refer to you other than the other person they already have a referral relationship with? In other words, they already have a trust relationship with that person, because they've already sent that other psychologist, or, you know, I said that word, of course you can replace that with any type of allied health professional. They already have trust that that person can help their client. They don't have trust that you can help their client. It is a risk for them to send you someone, right? So they might be tempted to send you someone if they normal referral partners, that they with providers, I should say, that they normally refer to are fully booked, maybe have a huge wait list where the patient's going to, not be able to get in immediately, and maybe they have a client that's in crisis. That might force them to start referring to you, right? So you want to give these people, in the referrers, whether it's GPs, pediatricians, psychiatrists, school guidance officers, whomever refers to you, you want to give them reason to start referring to you, because we're starting a practice here, right? So you need to stand out in their mind. How are they going to remember you? From the person, maybe you're going and doing a meet and greet. Guess what? Next week, somebody else is doing a meet and greet. The week after that, 2 other people are doing a meet and greet. The week after that, another person's doing one, and then somebody else is sending them flyers and sending them an email. It's like they're bombarded by people, right? It's why a lot of practices, surgeries just don't do meet and greets, because there's just too many. And they will tell you, well, we already have our people that we refer to and we're happy with them, right? So you need to stand out. You have to stand out, and that's where niching is really important. I'm not saying don't work in other areas, but when you go and speak to a doctor or any person for that matter that you think might become a referrer to you and your practice, you want to make sure that you can stand out. Talking about 10 or 20 presentations that you work with is not going to allow you to stand out. I really want to challenge you to think, what is your top one, ideally, if that's just too hard in terms of anxiety-laden thing to do. It's like, oh no, I can't only talk about one thing. Top 2 or maximum 3 things, right? So for me, if I go to a networking event, For me, I would talk about the trauma work that I do. All right, and that's what I would talk about. I can do lots of other presentations, right? But I don't talk about all the other stuff. Guess what? Does it mean I only get trauma referrals? Nope. Okay, keep that in mind. Another example is my 2 practices. So I've got one practice in Kapalaba on Brisbane South Side, and then the other one's also on the South Side, the Logan Home practice. So Kapalaba, these are suburbs, right? So Kapalaba suburb, that practice is marketed as our child and adolescent center. Our Logan Home suburb practice is marketed as a trauma center. Do you think we only get trauma clients at Logan Home? No. We get everything under the sun, okay? We do not get pedophilia, that type of stuff, because we don't accept those referrals because we see kids as well. We also won't see active schizophrenia. We will see everything under the sun that is appropriate for private practice. However, all our marketing is trauma related, okay? Because the doctors have come to learn that if you can treat complex trauma, you can probably treat depression, anxiety, OCD, personality, all of that stuff. It just happens. And over time, they've also come to learn that our practice, if they don't know who to refer to, they refer to us. Because the way we recruit our team, let's say for Logan Home, we will recruit people that is passionate about working with trauma, that has experience in it, or if they don't have experience in it, that they are passionate and eager and willing to learn and get trained in it, right? But once we've ticked that box for getting new people on board, we also ask, okay, what else do you do? What else do you bring? What is your second and your third thing that lights you on fire, that you can't wait to get to the practice and help other people deal with those issues, right? So that we know what is the skill set of each clinician. So when a surgery or a client calls in and says, I know you're a trauma center, but this is what's happening, can you help with this? We know, yes, so-and-so the practice deals with that. Let's get you booked in, right? And our GPs have come to learn that they can send us anything and we will either have somebody at our practice to help that patient, or we will find somebody for them, because we like to add value. Okay, we will go who in our local area deals with that issue, that are maybe, an expert in it or a specialist, although we're not allowed to use that word, right? But in our eyes, that person is a specialist in it, and we'll refer that client on to that. Okay, very important. And it's the same with the Kapalaba practice. So the Kapalaba practice is a child and adolescent center. Do you think we don't see adults there? We do. Okay, interesting fact, half of the clients are adults that goes to our Kapalaba practice. How interesting, right? Because the fact of the matter is, children and adolescents got parents. Sometimes they've got adult siblings, right? And we often get adults that's got nothing to do with any kids. They don't even have children, right? They get sent there. Because again, it's about getting your GPs to know, like, and trust you and send you referrals. And then once that is happening, because you've now stood out, then you're going to have more opportunities to communicate with them, to talk to them about how your team is put together, or maybe about your other interests. Did you know, doctor, that I also actually do ADOS assessments? Not only do I treat autism, but I also do assessments. So you can then start talking about that, or start talking about something else, right? But the way in to establish that initial relationship in what these days is a very potentially saturated market is niching, okay? And I want you to know that just because you might decide now that this is your niche, that's not cast in stone. This is your business. That's the beauty of private practice. You can decide in 6 months, I no longer want to work with that. Now I'm going to change my mind and I'm going to do something else. Okay, you just need to get started. You just need to decide, what is those clients that if I had a full day just of that presentation, that I would leave a happy psychologist, because it's like, yes, in the morning. I can't wait to get to the practice, and I leave going, yes, that was such a satisfying day. I got to work and do my purpose work, and that needs to be your niche area. So I am very much for niching. I think I gave you a lot of evidence there, right? Okay. Let's get another question. Holly says, do most people start out doing billing on their own, or do they hire someone? Suzanne responded and said, I use my own billing. I use HealthGet. Most certainly, you can start a practice on a shoestring budget, right? So if you are financially limited in terms of resources, by all means do your own billing, right? If you do have money and it's not gonna make it stressful for you, then hire someone. And it doesn't have to be an in-person person, right? So let's start at the beginning. What if you're not gonna hire someone? I clearly remember when I started my private practice. I'm sure you guys are gonna go, never, that can't be good. But this is what I did. My first practice, I hired, it was a pretty big room. I think it was like 19 square meters. It was a pretty big room, but it was just one room. That was my room. It was like part of a big shopping center, not a big shopping center like the Carindales and Westfields of the world. It was like in my suburb, a local shopping center, an IGA, a chemist, a Bottle O, of course, a dentist, and then a bakery, and then on the side it was this little room. So all of that was in the front, and then here you walk down the side, and that was just my, and a hairdresser here as well. And then at the side was my little office, and it was only this one room and it was only me, right? So what I did is I would tell new clients, I actually had a door, of course it was a glass door, and I bought some of those lovely IKEA blinds that you could close and open up. So I would tell new clients, if you arrive, and I would tell all the clients that in actual fact, that if you arrive and the blinds are still closed, just hang around outside until I come and collect you. I don't have a waiting room, so, don't come 10, 20 minutes early because there's no waiting room. Just come like 5 minutes before your appointment is due, right? So they knew if the blinds were open, they can hop straight in. If the blinds were closed, they had to wait outside. That's how I ran that. No waiting room, okay? They literally had to stand outside, in the little walkway waiting, all right? Then they would come in, I would do the paperwork in session. So if their appointment was at 10 o'clock, they would come in, I would introduce myself, I would sit them down on the couch, and I would administer the paperwork, giving them my full attention. Not you do the paperwork while I type away on my laptop and keep myself busy and multitask. No. Client is paying for that time, right? My full attention, which meant that I had really good clients because I would talk them through the consent form, confidentiality, and the limits around confidentiality, around my fees, how Medicare rebates work, how cancellation, no-show fees work, how the SMS reminders work, not to expect that it's always going to be there because it might not happen, etc., etc. So it was a great opportunity for boundary setting, which meant that I had very little cancellations and no shows, right? Because we set the boundary in an informed consent conversation. And I would get them to do the authority, back to the GP, to write GP reports, would talk them through all of that. I really held their hand through the paperwork. And I think, in this day and age, and maybe this shows my age, that I'm a bit old school, but I think that was just so fundamentally helpful in setting their expectations, in getting them on board, and giving them an opportunity to truly settle into the session as well, for them to know that, we've had this discussion, that I know these boundaries that we've set, we've made eye contact when we spoke about cancellation fees, all of that type of stuff. Then they would do the DAS 42, and they could ask me questions if they were uncertain, and they would do that. That might take 10-15 minutes depending on the person. And then I would do my intake interview until 50 minutes, all right? And then I would take the payment. I would do the FPOS and I would book the next appointment. Doesn't have to take long. It felt like forever then, and especially now compared to how quickly you can do it now. But I would do that to rebook the next appointment and take the FPOS payment within 5 minutes, and they would be out, giving me 5 minutes before the next client came. Right, so even though I didn't have a waiting room, didn't have a reception taking payments, I still booked clients on the hour. Because when I started my practice, I started at school hours. So I started at 9 and I finished at 3. And the school was literally 10 minutes from where I was working. So I did the school drop off in the morning, went in, did a 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2 o'clock clients, 6 clients in a row. Yes, I did. And no, I didn't burn out. That's just how I roll. And was done by 3, out the door, got the kids, went home. That's how I started my private practice. But it also meant that I got extremely good at time management, right? And I almost find that when I book clients back to back, it forces me to be good with my time management because I know I have to do it. I know I can do it. And then I do it because I have to, right? Which meant that I didn't have to work a lot of hours and I could still make a really great income, especially coming off maternity leave, because I started my practice just after a couple of months after my second son was born. All right. So you most definitely, you can do your billing. So that's the one extreme end, right? Then you could always hire yourself a VA. That could potentially work for you an hour, 2 hours a day, and they can take the payments for you over the phone, right? Because you can now take credit card details as long as it is stored securely, and as long as the clients have given their consent for that, you can store that details in your client management or your diary management software, for example, HealthKit or Power Diary. So at my practice, we use Power Diary. Or then if you do have the financial resources behind you, you can hire a front desk person that actually comes in and take the payment for you. But Silly Key says, some of the students I do supervision with say they can't get the clients out the door towards payment. Well, there is strategies and techniques that they need to use that. You need to have a winding down part. So let's say from 45 minutes, and I actually talk about this in my Time Mastery in Clinical Practice program because it is such a difficulty for a lot of people, but it is a skill, okay? It is a skill that you need to learn, just like you need to learn the skill of playing the piano, and you're not going to get it right the first time. You need to consistently practice it. But in short, what you need to do every session when you get to the 45-minute mark needs to have the same wind-up structure. So you are almost training your clients that when this time comes, when we start talking about these things, it means that we're finishing up, right? So it might be something to do with, okay, let's talk about what it is that we've covered today. Maybe you like to do a summary of what you've done in your session. So let's summarize what we've done today. Or maybe you do outcome or feedback informed therapy. You might want to ask the client, so what has been your 3 biggest takeaways or biggest learnings from today, right? What did you get out of today? What did you find helpful, or is there something that we didn't address that we need to put on the agenda for next time, etc. It's about coming up with something that works for you based on the way that you approach your therapy, right? And then go, okay, so let's double check your next appointment, because I used to do that even though I had a front desk person, because it was about making sure that the clients engage properly. I know what it is that they need based on my opinion. Obviously, it's still their choice, but but I always own the fact that based on what it is that you've told me, based on my clinical assessment, based on my theoretical framework approach, based on what I know and the research tells me the evidence-based treatment is for X, Y, Z presentation, this is how regularly I need to see you. This is probably for how many sessions I need to see you before we review this again. And I want to make sure this person comes in for those sessions. It's like when you go and see a GP and they prescribe you medication, right? They tell you exactly what you need to take, how often, when, for how long, when to come back. That's how I look at it, right? And a lot of people might not agree with it because it might feel a bit too similar to the medical model, but that's just how I think of it, right? It's like it would be unethical of me not to tell you what the best course of treatment is. Yes, it is still the client's decision to go ahead with it. Just like when my GP gives me medication, I still choose to go and fill that script or not. I still have to choose to drink it or not, to take the tablets. I still get to choose when I take it. Am I going to take it in the morning like they said, or I'm going to take it at midday, right? It's still my choice, and it's the same with therapy, but I have a ethical, legal, moral, I'm not sure if it's legal, I guess so, but moral responsibility to tell this person what I think is going to be of help for them, right? And I would make sure that they know. I will reiterate it so they know. Gerda gets out her laptop. Let's just quickly double check. Yes, you've got an appointment for 2 weeks. Is that time still good for you? Perfect. This is, remember, your homework that you need to do. Awesome. I'm going to walk you out to reception so we can get you sorted. Then I get up and take them out with me. Now, of course, if your clients then, let's say, refuse to stand up, that type of stuff, then again, you need to approach that at 2 levels, right? So you need to note it and then go, okay, I need to talk to them about this next time, especially if it's consistently recurring. Then it becomes a therapeutic issue, right? That you want to address not 5 minutes before they need to leave next time, at the start of the next session. You need to go, okay, what I want us to do today is take a bit of an observer view to what normally happens in our sessions. And I want to share with you what I've noticed. I would love for you to share what you might have noticed, right? And use that opportunity to have that discussion in terms of what I notice is when it is time for us to finish your session, that it's really hard for you to leave. And I'm wondering what that is all about. And then really starting to uncover what all of that is, what's coming up for them so that you can stop it basically, right? But if it's happening in that moment, obviously you don't have an opportunity then to address it. But then what you need to do is, and I would go so-and-so, I'm mindful that there's still things that you would like to discuss. We're going to have to put it on hold until I see you in 2 weeks' time because I do have somebody else coming in and I want to respect their appointment time. And then walk them out. It's about setting a boundary. Never be scared to set a boundary with a client. It is your job to do it. It is your job to model it. So I would encourage you to have these conversations with your supervisees. All right? They need to take control of that situation, but you also should really empower them with these type of suggestions and behavioral things, scripts that they can maybe practice with you in supervision in terms of what can I say to clients. Because if they don't think of behavioral things to do or things to say, they're going to get stuck and just going to run late the whole day, right? We know that happens. All right. What's next? One more question from Alan. Alan says, it's hard for me to articulate my question. However, here goes. So many people start a solo practice. Hiring others is fraught with reputational risks and potential industrial relation headaches. Solo practice brings autonomy, yet potential burnout. What are your thoughts, Gerda? Well, Alan, I've got 2 group private practices, right? So I think that answers that for you. What I will say is this, right? When I started my private practice, I was under the impression that that is what I was going to do for the rest of my life, be in solo private practice. I'm an introvert. I thought, oh, this is going to be cool, right? I like just being in my own head, in my own thoughts. I like doing my own thing. I like making my own decisions, that autonomy thing. I like the flexibility on offer. especially having kids. But you know what? Even as a solo practitioner, that's an introvert, it got pretty isolating, all right? Pretty isolating. And it's just like, I want some friends. And then I got myself some friends, and the rest, as they say, is history. I think if you're going to be a solo practitioner who does not want to burn out, you can achieve that, most certainly, right? I think if you are going to be in private practice, you are going to need to give yourself an opportunity, and you're probably going to have to work on strategies to get what I refer to as private practice fit, right? So where I come from in South Africa, and there's a lot of South African psychologists in our community, the generation of psychs I come from in South Africa, we would easily see 8 to 10 clients a day, 5 days a week. That's just what we did, right? So we became private practice fit very quickly. Even my first placement in masters was at the university's unit for student counseling. I was booked 10 clients a day. Like first week on master's placement, 10 clients a day, 5 days a week. That's just how they do things, right? I'm not sure if it's changed now. I haven't been in South Africa as a psychologist working there for more than 15 years, but that's how it was then, right? So it was basically sink or swim. And I'm not saying you need to see 8 to 10 clients. I'm just going, if you want to earn a good income, I personally would book at minimum 6 people a day, okay? Because people are going to cancel, people are going to no-show. Some days you're going to have 6, but some days you're going to have 4 people, right? And I think it will probably, balance out to an average of 5 people a day over time. Unless you like what's called a super shrink and your dropout rates are in the single figures, i.e. your dropout rates is less than 10%, so 9 or less, then you're considered, according to literature, a super shrink, right? Then maybe it will be closer to the number 6 on a day-to-day basis. You also want to ensure that you charge your worth, that you charge a high rate. If you're going to be bulk billing as a solo private practice practitioner, the chances of you burning out is going to increase, right? Because you need to do so many more hours to earn a good living, right? And I'm not talking about becoming a millionaire here. I'm just talking about paying your bills and, not really having to worry about going to the shops and not having in your bank account, and being able to pay stuff for your kids and, go on a holiday and do stuff like that. Earn a good living. So you need to price yourself accordingly. You need to increase your prices at least on an annual basis to ensure that it keeps up with increases in expenses, with the consumer price index, all that type of stuff. You also need to set up financial processes, right? People often look at private practice and go, oh, there's not a lot of security, I don't get leave and holiday pay, etc., etc. Well, you could get all of those things. You could get all of the perks in private practice. You just need to spend a day and go, okay, if my client pays me $200 for that hour, of that $200, I will put, let's say, $100 in the, I will keep $100 in the, not 100, let's say $200 comes into the practice account. Okay, then I'll have a little offset account to go, okay, how much of that do I need to keep aside for my leave? How much do I need to keep in a holding account for super, for pay as you go? Have a little holding account, which means only the money that's in here you can then touch to pay your bills and all of that other stuff. It's just about putting those automatic payments in place, making a decision. So what I did is I paid myself as an employee right off the bat, right? At some point I did go do owner's drawings, but then after here I just stopped that. It didn't work, and that was, I changed it based on an accountant recommendation, and I just went back to just paying myself as an employee, which meant that I could do, I could track, if I was an employee in this business that didn't own it, what would be my sick leave, what would be my annual leave, putting money aside in a holding account for that, paying my super, which means that I got all the perks that I would have gotten if I worked for Queensland Health. But it just takes a conversation with your accountant and then half an afternoon, right? It's not even a day, but let's give it a day of just setting all of those sub-accounts up, automatic payments, because you're going to decide, do you pay yourself weekly? That's what I've always done. Do you want to pay yourself fortnightly? Okay, which means on a weekly basis, this is what needs to happen. And then when the time comes to go on a 4-week holiday, you have money in your leave account that you can pay yourself. So you get to have leave, paid leave, right? So you don't have to burn out. You just need to manage it. You need to look at it as, if I did not own this business, but I was setting this up for somebody else to work in it and they were my employee, what would I need to do to look after them and ensure they don't burn out? Then, of course, on the other hand, so I guess let me just make this point, which means you can have a good private practice, solo, doing your own thing, and still have holidays and all the perks that goes with it, right? However, on the flip side as well, you can have a great group private practice, yes, which might come with headaches and all of that stuff, as any business would have. Show me a business that doesn't have those challenges, and I will immediately enter that type of industry and start a business there. I don't think it exists, right? So it's about knowing that when you choose to build a group private practice, you're going to have those challenges. And I can tell you the most trickiest part of any business, as well as ours, is the people management, is the HR management, okay? Believe me. But that being said, it's so worth it. It is so worth it, right? I've been able to completely remove myself out of my 2 group private practices. That is still running in my absence. I cannot tell you when last I actually put a foot in one of my group private practices. This year, if I have been to either of my private practices more than 3 times, that's a lot. That's how hands-off I am. So I actually have, and I pay a principal psychologist to run it for me, right? So, and I still am able to earn an income from those practices. It's still my businesses. I'm the sole director. So you can build up a proper business, right, that can become a sellable asset one day in our industry. You just need to get your foundations right and then, just build a business. So it doesn't matter which one you go with. Both can be successful, both can be financially profitable, both can give you their own set of headaches, both can give you their own bounty of benefits, of privileges, of rewards. That's really the word I'm looking for, of rewards. And all comes down to, what is your vision? What is it that you want, right? There's no right or wrong here. It's like, what do you want in 3 years' time, 5 years' time, 10 years' time? Why did you come into this business, right, of helping? If that is to have a solo private practice, that's perfect. If it is to have a relatively medium-sized, a relatively small group private practice, that's perfect. If you want one humongous super clinic, that's perfect. If you want to have 30 clinics around Australia, that's perfect as well, because comes down to what it is that you want. Cool. All right. So I'm just checking. No more live. There's no more live questions. Let's have a look in here. In the group, let me just refresh it, because sometimes all the comments isn't on here either. Well, thank you so much for those of you that have stayed with me till the end. I can see we still have 3 people here. I will, whenever you guys have questions, feel free to ask away. Also, some of you already know this, but if you are not aware that there is a program available, an online program called How to Start Your Very Own Ultimate Private Practice on my website. It is probably the cheapest high value program I offer. Most people will know that the majority of my programs cost around $497. That is like my normal price for an online program. I have specifically made this one like so much cheaper, way more affordable. It's only $197. It's like $200. And it tells you everything that I think, from my experience, you need to know to start your very own group private practice. There's even a payment plan. And I did that because I know some of you might be in contemplation. You might go, I don't really know what is involved here, right? It sounds great, it sounds amazing, but is it really what I want to do? So I thought, if I can make this course available at a price where you can go, you know what, I can do this program, I can pay $200, and if I go through it and go, actually, no, I'm staying away from this thing called private practice, that $200 was not a waste, but really an investment into your decision making and in helping you make the right decision that is right for you. Okay, of course, inside, honestly, I'm hoping that you're gonna go, yes, that's what I want, because I'm passionate about private practice. I think we've got such an important role to play. So it's my hope that that program helps you and really sets out the pathway and that roadmap of what it is that you need to do, where you can go, okay, it's actually not as scary as I thought. Actually, now I know exactly what I need to do. So I can actually take this darn leap and I can actually do this, right? So that is my goal, that it will help you get to that place where you can say yes to private practice, because I would love for you to share in the joys that I have from it. So check out my website. What I might do, I can put the link in here. It's just $197. I think it's something like, how many modules? Let me quickly go into my 7 modules that you get. And there's 3 bonuses as well. There's a bonus training on social media, using that for your marketing. There's a bonus training for your practice look, where I actually take you through not screenshots, photos of my private practice, telling you essential elements in the actual layout, in the furniture that we have there, as well as you get my private practice startup checklist. All of that, plus 7 modules. Geez, I really need to review that price. But for now, it's $197. That includes GST. So if you're interested, check it out. If you are watching the replay and you have any questions on anything that I've discussed, that I've brought up, that I've answered, please pop it on here, tag me, just go Gerda, and ask the question. I'll come back and answer that one for you. Alrighty, it was so good spending my Thursday night with you. I think it's now time for a cup of tea. I might watch a bit of Netflix just to calm down the mind. My current Netflix program of choice is Preacher. I'm not sure if you've watched it. If you've watched it, let me know. It is a bit of a challenging one. It's not my usual type of program. It's very interesting. But check it out if you like to watch your bit of Netflix. So let me know what your poison is currently, because I'm actually on the last season. So I'm going to need something new to watch to switch off the head at night. So let me know what it is that you love and enjoy, and I might check that out as well. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you so much. Have a pleasant week, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye for now.